So, what if everything you think you know about high-impact, enduring leadership is, well, fundamentally upside down?
Yeah.
Welcome back. Today we are doing a truly immersive deep dive into the foundation of servant leadership. We've gone through source material, some of it ancient, some very modern, and it all powerfully argues the same thing.
It does. That the most radical, transformative influence doesn't come from a title or authority or even visibility.
It comes from service.
Yeah.
The profound, simple, and honestly, the often counterintuitive act of service.
And our mission here is really to extract that blueprint, the blueprint for, well, what the source is called true greatness. We need to understand its ancient origins, look at its undeniable modern relevance, and then, and this is critical, spend time on the distinction between just performing acts of service
And actually embodying a lifestyle of servanthood.
Exactly.
And this isn't some new age management theory, is it? It's ancient wisdom that, as we'll see, still defines incredibly successful modern leaders like Nelson Mandela. If the world tells you to climb the ladder, our sources tell us the real path involves quietly serving and leading from the bottom. Okay, so let's unpack this radical reversal. We have to start with the paradox because I think this is where most modern leaders really get tripped up. We live in a world that is just obsessed with metrics, with control, and maybe above all with visibility.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is chasing status. And yet the research is so clear on this.
The moment you try to seize influence, it slips away.
It slips right through your fingers. The deepest, most enduring influence comes from quietly serving, from anticipating needs before they're even voiced, and from genuinely putting the flourishing of others first.
I mean, when you look back at the original concept, it was revolutionary, wasn't it?
Completely. The documents we reviewed cite Matthew 20, where a master teacher just flips the entire cultural script. And he says, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant.
You really have to appreciate the context there.
You do. This is first century Palestine under Roman dominance. Leadership meant one thing: domination. It was hierarchy, ambition.
Power through force.
Power through force, maintained by fear. So the common understanding was, I am the boss, therefore you serve me.
And this new blueprint comes along and says, no, I am the leader, therefore I serve you. That is a massive reversal.
It is, and it feels just as countercultural today as it must have 2,000 years ago.
It really does.
Because we still struggle with that same core human desire for status. The sources we studied consistently show that leadership without that genuine servanthood, it just inevitably spirals. It becomes self-centered, reactive, and in the end, profoundly unsustainable.
At that last.
It can't. But when a leader truly embraces service, it creates psychological safety. It inspires this intense loyalty and unlocks potential in a way that, well, no amount of control or authority ever could.
Okay, so let's translate this to today, to the modern corporate environment where we're all facing complexity, rapid change, intense ethical scrutiny. What are the stakes? Why is neglecting this a strategic risk, as the sources put it?
It's a strategic risk because we are living through a massive crisis of trust. Visibility, high-profile media appearances, even your job title. None of that guarantees credibility anymore.
The way people see right through it.
They see right through it. They're looking past the performance to the character. And if your team sees you prioritize your own metrics or your comfort or your career over their well-being, that trust evaporates. Instantly.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, command and control just doesn't work when what you need is collaboration and creative problem solving. But to really get this, we have to understand the fundamental why behind it. Our sources trace this back to a very specific theological foundation.
Absolutely. To understand the depth of servanthood, you have to look at what the sources identify as the ultimate model. And it's all about radical self-emptying. The theological posture here is one of total humility and sacrifice.
So this is where we get into the mindset of Christ from Philippians.
Exactly. Philippians 2, verses 5-8. It outlines this mindset. He, being described as having the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing.
By taking the very nature of a servant.
That is just astonishing when you think about it. The greatest act of power is framed entirely as the ultimate act of humility.
Precisely. And for anyone listening who maybe doesn't share that faith background, let's translate that key idea. The sources say this kind of servanthood is ontological.
Ontological, so it's not just a strategy.
Not at all. It's not a clever management trick you put on when it's convenient. It means it reflects the very character, the very nature of the highest power. It's a foundational commitment to the needs of others. It's about aligning your ambition not with short-term metrics, but with a selfless vision for everyone around you to flourish.
And that lens helps make sense of so many other biblical archetypes, right? You can see this pattern repeating.
I mean, think about Moses. He was not a natural-born leader. He was reluctant, a stuttering advocate. But his influence was sustained through his relentless advocacy for his people, often at immense personal cost.
His authority was tied directly to his service.
And Joseph, sold into slavery, unjustly imprisoned, he used his God-given gifts, his skills and stewardship, not for personal revenge, but for the flourishing of an entire nation.
And eventually his own family. His service was proactive, even in the face of profound injustice.
And then there's Esther, a perfect example of strategic courage. Her influence came not from her title as queen, but from her willingness to step into extreme danger, risking her life to serve and protect her people.
And that common thread is just so crucial. Their power wasn't about the job title. It came directly from how humble and helpful they were. And that is exactly why this model works outside of purely religious settings. Which brings us to a global, contemporary application that I think everyone recognizes.
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela.
His leadership in post-apartheid South Africa is maybe one of the most vivid, modern examples of this entire philosophy in action. This was a man who spent 27 years in prison.
27 years. That experience alone would justify bitterness or seeking political revenge. But the core of Mandela's leadership was his willingness to serve the nation's future above his own personal pain.
Right. His most iconic acts were about putting the nation's well-being first, like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
He chose forgiveness over vengeance.
And that incredible symbolic moment, him wearing the Springboks rugby jersey.
The ultimate symbol of white apartheid rule.
Exactly. And he wasn't doing that for a photo op. He was symbolically stooping, reaching across this chasm of division to try and unite a fractured society.
That decision wasn't about power. It was about radical service to national unity. And it proved that influence grounded in selfless service will always outlast authority that's rooted in coercion or ambition or personal ego.
Okay, so here's where we make the critical jump from theory to practice. We have to talk about the distinction that our sources say is so often overlooked. The difference between service and servanthood.
Yes.
Most people think they're the same thing. They are absolutely not.
The difference is profound, and it really defines the effectiveness of a leader. So, service, that's what we do. It's situational, it's episodic, it's task-focused.
Like, I help you move furniture because I owe you a favor.
Exactly. It's often motivated by obligation or convenience. It is, at its core, transactional. Servanthood, on the other hand, that defines who we are. It's a consistent lifestyle and an internal mindset.
So it's not what you do, it's how you operate.
It's your operating system. It's rooted in that humble, self-emptying posture we talked about. It's relational, it's consistent, and it's transformative. It shapes every single decision.
I have to ask this, because this is the friction point. If servanthood means putting others first, how do you stop that from being exploited? Where's the line between courageous service and just, enabling toxic behavior or burning yourself out?
That is a crucial question. And the sources are very clear. Servanthood is not weakness. It's not self-neglect. True servanthood involves using your authority and integrity to create structures where others can thrive, but it doesn't mean becoming a doormat.
So you still have to set boundaries.
You have to set healthy boundaries. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions and hold people accountable, but it's all done with the goal of serving the higher mission and the health of the organization. It's not about being nice. It's about being good.
That distinction really elevates the discussion. Let's look at the practical illustration from the sources, the one about Miriam, the business leader. She embraced this servanthood mindset, and it completely changed her company culture.
It was a great example.
So Miriam ran a mid-sized tech company. A senior team member faces a sudden, prolonged family health crisis. Now, standard service would be to just offer PTO.
Right, check the box.
But she embodied servanthood. She immediately called the team together, proactively reallocated resources, adjusted deadlines, and made it absolutely clear that family health was the #1 priority.
She modeled empathy over sheer efficiency. She listened to the team members' personal struggles, not just their performance metrics, and she openly celebrated team wins, always elevating her team's contributions instead of taking the credit.
And her influence grew exponentially.
It did. Because servanthood was consistently who she was, not just an act she performed for recognition. The relational trust she built. You just can't buy that with a performance bonus.
So what this means for you, the listener, is that servanthood has to permeate every level. It transforms your leadership from transactional, I do this, you do that, to deeply relational.
Mm.
It has to influence how you approach board meetings, how you write emails, everything. We have to challenge another major misconception, too. Servanthood is so often seen as, well, as passive or soft.
Yes.
But the sources are emphatic. Adopting this mindset requires profound courage. What does that courage actually entail? Because it sounds like this is often the hardest path to choose.
It absolutely requires a courage that is multifaceted. First, there's vulnerability, placing others' needs above your personal comfort. That often means risking your reputation or accepting blame or enduring unfair criticism.
It's a risk.
It's a huge risk. Second, initiative. It's proactive. You have to step up to meet needs, mediate difficult conflicts, or advocate for justice within your organization, even when that advocacy is unpopular.
And third is responsibility, embracing full accountability for outcomes, guiding with integrity and facing the consequences of decisions head on, not deflecting them onto your team.
And we see this courage so vividly in the examples of leaders serving in, say, conflict-affected regions or fighting systemic injustice. I mean, those are contexts where leadership itself is inherently risky. Their influence flows entirely from a servant's heart because their commitment is to something so much greater than self-preservation.
So if it's so clearly effective and it resonates so universally, from ancient scripture all the way to Mandela, why do so many of us struggle to actually do this in our daily lives?
Well, the sources identify a few major hurdles. The first is just the relentless siren song of ego and ambition. We are constantly seeking recognition over genuine, quiet impact. We want to be seen.
Which immediately compromises the whole spirit of it. And I know I'm guilty of the second one. Busyness. We get so focused on the tyranny of the urgent task, clearing the inbox, hitting deadlines, that we neglect intentional relational investment.
That is so relatable. I think we all feel that. And the third hurdle is cultural pressure. We live in a visibility-driven culture that rewards performative leadership.
Right, you feel like you have to showcase your acts of service on social media for approval.
And the moment you do that, the act shifts from servanthood, which is that internal commitment, right back to service, a transactional performance.
So what's a practical daily antidote to all of this?
The antidote is the emphasis on what the sources call invisible acts of service. These are the daily practices that build sustained, resilient influence precisely because they are not seeking acclaim.
So things like just listening attentively.
Listening attentively. Offering help without needing recognition. Sacrificing your personal convenience to mentor someone with no immediate return for you.
Why are those invisible acts so powerful?
They're powerful because they build deep psychological safety. When your team sees you consistently serving without needing applause, when they see you take the blame and give away the credit, they understand your commitment is genuine. Visible acts can be discounted as self-promotional, but these hidden acts, they build a kind of loyalty and trust that lasts.
This has been a truly radical and necessary deep dive. It's a profound transformation of what we even think power looks like.
It's a character transformation. Servanthood isn't a temporary technique. It reshapes the leader's character. It cultivates humility, patience, empathy, and crucially, it leads to the flourishing of others. The ultimate takeaway is that true greatness isn't realized by trying to be exalted, but by stooping to lift others up.
So this knowledge now equips you to lead differently, to shift your focus from just seeking a position to cultivating genuine influence that will endure far beyond any title you ever hold. We asked at the beginning, what if everything you knew about leadership was upside down? The sources tell us that the journey to influence starts with service, and the courage to lead begins in that quiet willingness to serve. So, what does this all mean for you right now?
If greatness is truly measured by consistent servanthood rather than by recognition, maybe take a moment to consider this. What is one concrete act of hidden service you can commit to this week that embodies this courageous, outward-focused leadership?